2026 United States Marine Highway Program Notice Funding Opportunity Applicant Webinar. My name is Tim Pickering, and I manage the Marine Highway Program for the Maritime Administration. I'd like to begin by introducing our leadership in the Office of Industry Support and the Office of Ports and Waterways. Teresa Cromie is the Acting Director of the Office of Ports and Waterways and my direct supervisor. And Bill Pappy is the Deputy Associate Administrator for Industry Support. The presenters today are staff members from the Marine Highway Program, myself, Fred Jones, Chris Clark, and Wade Moorfield. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues, Stephen Conson and Sharon Jordan, who are supporting us behind the scenes. Next slide. Okay, so before we jump in, a few administrative items to cover. We have Gemini AI note-taking feature active during this webinar, and therefore all participants will receive transcripts of the session. This webinar is also being recorded. Today's recording will be available online. The slides are already posted for your reference on the Marine Highway website under webinars, and we'll drop a link to that in the chat. So please mute your microphones. And for our attendance records, if you wouldn't mind, please enter your name and organization into the chat so we'll have a record of it. Thank you. We'll also set aside time for audience questions at the end of the presentation. If you have a question during the presentation, you can enter it into the chat feature. We'll answer as many questions as we can today, but questions that require more research will be added to our FAQ frequently asked questions section on the program website. Today we'll be going through the highlights of the NOFO, not reading every word on the page. The information we'll be sharing is also available in the NOFO. Okay, next slide. There you go. Yeah, this disclaimer is to inform you that if you receive conflicting information during this webinar, which hopefully you will not, please use the language in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, also known as the NOFO. Next slide. For today's content, since applicants are often brand new to the program, we will begin with an overview of the program. Then we'll discuss changes between from the FY 2025 Notice of Funding and this year's. We'll also review eligibility requirements and cover the merit criteria and selection considerations. We will then take questions. We estimate the presentation to be around 40 to 45 minutes, and we'll have the balance of the hour for questions. A link to the NOFO has been posted in the chat for your convenience. Page references to the NOFO are also provided on the tops of many of the slides. Next slide. Okay, so the Marine Highway Program was created by the Energy Independence and Security Act of 2007. The program was designed to reduce landside congestion through the designation of marine highway routes. This map shows all the designated marine highway routes. The routes are numbered to correspond with the interstate highway that they roughly parallel. For example, the Atlantic waters off the East Coast are named Marine Highway Route M95 and so forth. Each route has a route sponsor, typically a state DOT representative. And we'll add a link in the chat to a web page that explains more about the marine highway routes. The program currently has 35 marine highway routes that reach 41 states, the District of Columbia, and the 5 U.S. territories. The states without navigable waterways are shown in the light gray. Next slide. Okay, so this year's NOFO has several changes. We have updated the rating rubrics for selection criteria to better align with the statutory requirements of the program. We have removed the workforce development and job quality as a selection consideration, and the addition of innovative technology as a selection consideration. We also ensured alignment with current executive orders and administration priorities. So be sure to read the NOFO carefully. It has changed from last year. Next slide. Okay, first say the NOFO is available on grants.gov, and we just put the link in there as well. Grant applications must be received by Monday, August 31st, 2026 by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time via grants.gov. Late applications will not be accepted for any reason. The total funding available for fiscal year 2026 is $10,772,270, as well as any unexpended funds returned to the program before awards are announced. Our program, the funds are available until expended. So therefore, if that's where these prior year funds come from. There is no minimum or maximum award size. The goal is to obligate funds not later than September 30th, 2029, and to expend all funds within 5 years after funds obligation for each individual award. The obligation occurs upon execution of a written grant agreement. A project's likelihood to be ready for obligation of funds by September 30th, 2029, and the ability to liquidate these obligations within 5 years of obligation will be considered during the technical process or the review process under technical capacity and NEPA processing permitting risk selection consideration. Next slide. Okay, I want to highlight a few items that your application must include. You must have a standard form 424, the application for federal assistance. Applicants are encouraged also to submit the SF 424C, budget information construction projects, if your project involves construction. Both the SF 424 and the SF 424C may be found on the grants.gov website. A project narrative that contains your project's information and is in the format outlined in Section D of the notice of funding. You must have a financial letter of commitment documenting the availability of the non-federal cost share unless the applicant qualifies for and is requesting 100% federal funding. And for private sector applicants, a letter of endorsement from the applicable marine highway route sponsor must be included. The list of route sponsors is included as Appendix A of the NOFO and is also posted on the program's website in the link we provided earlier. If any required information is missing, we may contact you to provide it. If it is not provided, we may deem the application incomplete and not process it. Next slide. Okay, here's who's eligible to apply. A state, a political subdivision of a state or local government, a metropolitan or regional planning organization, port authorities, and tribal governments as defined in the NOFO. Also eligible are United States private sector operators of marine highway projects or private sector owners of facilities, including Alaska Native corporations. Private entities and Alaska Native corporations require an endorsement letter from the marine highway route sponsor. As previously noted, you can find a list of the route sponsors in the NOFO and on the program's website. I'll now turn the presentation over to Fred Jones, who will present the general information that we need from you to fully understand your project.
Thanks, Tim, and hello, everyone. Let's talk cost sharing. For cost sharing, the federal share of an eligible United States Marine Highway project may not exceed 80%. However, the Secretary may increase the federal share above that 80%. For example, one example is if a grant to an eligible entity is a tribal government. The second example of that would be if a grant project is in a rural area. A tribal and rural applicant must submit their requests to exceed the federal share above 80% as part of the budget information that is required on the SF 424. Grants to America Samoa, Guam, the Virgin Islands, or the Northern Mariana Islands, MARAD will waive any cost share requirement for local matching funds under $200,000, including an in-kind contribution. I just ask that you please refer to the NOFO under the cost sharing section for additional information. Next slide, please. Many types of project activities are eligible for the Marine Highway Program. These activities include activities that provide a coordination or capable alternative to landside transportation, those activities that mitigate or relieve landside congestion, activities that promote marine highway transportation or use vessels documented under Chapter 121, Title 46. And finally, activities that develop, expand, or promote marine highway transportation or shipper use of marine highway transportation. Next slide, please. Let's talk eligible projects. Now, eligible projects include a couple of things. They include capital construction and planning or research types of projects that are eligible for the program. The NOFO clarifies what's eligible under the Marine Highway Transportation Planning activities. Please note that projects for development phase or marine highway planning activities do not include any construction activities, and they will be less competitive than those projects that will result in construction. You will need to make a very strong case if your project is in the development phase or marine highway transportation planning activity. Next slide, please. Ineligible projects activities include, once again, I ask that you please refer to the NOFO for a full list of these activities, but I'll give you a few. I want to highlight a few. One would be improvement outside the U.S., and the other one would be raising sunken vessels. No funds may be awarded to entities involved with Log Inc. Logistic public information platform, as this is further defined in the NOFO. Once again, please refer to the NOFO for any additional information on eligible project activities. Next slide, please. Some projects some projects have many activities within them, and sometimes these activities are even carried out by other parties. The NOFO covers in detail how to address project components in your application. MARAD expects that all components included in the application will be delivered as part of your project, whether a component is federally funded or not. If the application has multiple components, you should clearly identify your priorities for funding among those components. Next slide. Now we're going to move into the project narrative outline. MARAD expects that your application will follow the basic outline provided in the slide and detailed in the NOFO. To ensure that your application addresses all applicable requirements, I'll cover them in this section briefly. Next slide, please. First section is the project description. MARAD wants to understand the fundamentals about your project. This section should include a statement of work and a project description that covers technical engineering information and the project status. This section should also discuss how the project promotes, expands, or develops a marine highway transportation service, including the cargo type. If you are submitting a joint application, identify who's the lead recipient and include a description of the roles and responsibilities of each applicant. Also, please include a signed letter of support from each eligible joint applicant. MARAD also requires citations of authority or supporting documentation that establishes the applicant's authority to carry out the project. If your project involves purchasing equipment, please focus on the operating requirements, features, and benefits you are seeking from that equipment versus just describing the specific brand. The next section, section 2, will be the project location. Merit also needs this information about your project's location. The location is where the requested grant funds will be used, not the headquarters, not the corporate office, or the other office of the applicant, or any other offices of the applicant. Please describe what marine highway route will be served by your project. We also ask that you identify whether the project is in a rural area, meaning this rural area means it's located outside the 2020 census designated urban area. Now, the urban area is an area that's located within a 2020 designated urban area in the census tract. If your project has multiple sites, include the location information for all sites. This section should also clearly identify whether the project is located in a qualified opportunity zone. Next slide. Now, the third and final section is the grant funds and sources. We ask that you please describe the project budget as 3 funding sources category: non-federal funding, federal funds being requested under the Marine Highway Program, and other federal funds. Please do not include expenses incurred prior to the project's award selection for the budget. Applicants must include a letter of financial commitment as defined in the NOFO, which demonstrates that the non-federal funding source for the project are stable, dependable, and dedicated to that particular project. If that project includes both urban and rural areas, your budget needs to separate out the cost between the various census tracts. Next slide, please. Now, for private sector applicants. For private sector applicants, additional information is required. I won't read this slide in detail. I'll give you a brief second to go over it. But I just ask that you please refer to the NOFO for a full discussion about how private sector applicants need to provide additional information. With that said, I will turn the presentation over to Mr. Chris Clark, who will actually talk about the merit criteria. Chris?
Thank you, Fred. Next slide, please. Moving on to merit criteria. Merit criteria are statutory requirements by which your project will be rated. There are 4 merit criteria. Firstly, demonstrating the need to develop, expand, or promote marine highway transportation or shipper use of marine highway transportation. Secondly, expanding the benefits of marine highway transportation. Thirdly, measuring project support. And fourthly, leveraging federal funding and financial viability. Each of the 4 merit criteria has their own rating table that describes how the information you provide to merit will be scored. Next slide, please. We'll look at each of the criteria now, starting with demonstrating the need to develop, expand, or promoting marine highway transportation. Your project will be evaluated under the 3 categories of need: market need, project need, and project impact. Next slide, please. Here's the rating table that's included in the notice of funding. For a high rating, the project will effectively demonstrate all 3 categories: market need, project need, and project impact. Medium and low ratings follow accordingly, depending on what the applicant provides in response to the rating table. Be sure to prioritize your response to address project need and market need. Please note that if the applicant responsible for this criteria is rated non-responsive, the application will not be considered for an award. Next slide, please. For the next merit criteria, Merit wants to learn about how your project would expand the benefits of marine highway transportation. Please describe the benefits directly attributable to the project and not those benefits attributable to the overall marine highway transportation service. Your project will be evaluated under the following 4 categories: how it mitigates or relieves landside congestion, how it shows economic competitiveness via transportation efficiency and economic gains, how it provides alternatives to landside transportation and improves transportation network resiliency, and how it demonstrates safety improvements. Next slide, please. To earn a high rating, the project must effectively demonstrate all 4 categories. Medium and low ratings follow accordingly, depending upon what the applicant provides in response to the rating table. Make sure you prioritize your response to cover landside congestion and economic competitiveness. Please note that, like the need criteria, if the applicant response for the benefits criteria is rated non-responsive, the applicant will not be considered for an award. Next slide, please. Merit wants to learn more about the specific supporters of your project as documented in letters of support. A strong response would include letters of support from both public and private sectors. Letters of support should be specific to the project and current within 6 months of the application date. Letters that document a commitment from a supporter to continue or expand their usage of the marine highway as a result of your project will result in a higher rating. Next slide, please. Now we'll review the rating table. For a high rating, the applicant has letters of support from public and private sector shareholders. That includes a commitment to continue or expand use of the marine highway. Medium and low ratings follow accordingly, depending upon what the applicant provides in response to the rating table. No letters of support will result in a non-responsive rating. Please note that if an applicant is a private entity, the required endorsement letter from the Marine Highway Route sponsor will count as a letter of support. Next slide, please. To maximize the impact of Marine Highway Program awards, Merit seeks to leverage the federal funding that's being provided with non-federal contributions. The applicant must document that the proposed marine highway transportation project is financially viable and will remain financially viable for as long as the project is used for the purposes outlined in the application, and that the funds will be spent or used effectively and efficiently. This section may include a discussion on the applicant's business processes and operations. The rating has 2 parts and 2 rating tables. Firstly, leveraging federal funding, and secondly, financial viability. Next slide, please. Under leveraging federal funding, we want to know what percentage of funds the application will match and that those funds are stable and dedicated to the project. A high rating means that the applicant has matched 40% or higher of the total project costs in non-federal funding. A medium rating means the applicant has matched more than 20%, but less than 40% in non-federal funds. A low rating means that the applicant has provided the statutory minimum of 20% in non-federal funds, or the applicant matches less than 20%, but qualifies for a federal share of above 80%. A non-federal match of less than 20% cost share is considered non-responsive. Please note that if the applicant response for this criteria is rated non-responsive, the application will not be considered for award. Next slide, please. Under financial viability, a high rating means the applicant has demonstrated that the project is and will remain financially viable and the funds will be used effectively and efficiently. Medium and low ratings follow accordingly, depending upon what the applicant provides in response to the rating table. If the applicant response for this criteria is rated non-responsive, the application will not be considered for award. Next slide, please. And now we'll turn the presentation over to Mr. Wade Moorfield.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about selection considerations. After completing the merit criteria review, MARAD will review projects based on the extent to which they align with the program and the administration's three selection considerations. And those are technical capacity, NEPA process and permitting risk, and innovative technology. So that's a new one. We're going to go through each of these today. So please familiarize with the rating tables for each consideration. They are in the NOFO on pages 31 through 33. Next slide, Sharon. Great. I'll start with technical capacity. Here, MARAD is seeking to understand how the applicant plans to implement the project. A strong response would describe the applicant's history of delivering similar projects or experience with completing a federally supported project. Please include a detailed project schedule with major milestones to show how ready the project is to begin, and identify risks for your project. A project with mitigated risk is more competitive for funding versus a comparable project with unaddressed risks. Sometimes a project would support a future marine highway transportation service that is not yet operational. There is guidance in the NOFO about how to document this situation. Next slide. Technical capacity and domestic preference. So marine highway projects are subject to the requirements of the Build America, Buy America Act, or BABA as we call it. In your application, make sure you discuss the steps taken to ensure your project complies with applicable requirements in maximizing domestic goods, products, and materials. Projects may require a waiver of Build America, Buy America requirements, but present no plan to maximize domestic content. Presenting no plan to maximize domestic content may result in a greater risk rating under technical capacity. And then please refer to the NOFO for the full discussion on technical capacity. Next slide. And here are the ratings. Technical capacity is rated by risk level, where low risk obviously is the most desirable rating. A low risk rating means that the application has a detailed and feasible project schedule, a detailed and reasonable discussion about risk, and the capacity to successfully complete the project. Project risks are identified, and how they will be mitigated is discussed. So we're definitely looking for a risk mitigation table in the application. Moderate risk and high risk projects ratings will follow accordingly depending on what the applicant provides in response to the rating table that you see here and is included in the NOFO. Note that for a high risk rating, depending on its severity, any risk may result in the high risk rating. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. The next one is NEPA process and permitting risk. Here, the applications should include sufficient information for MARAD to evaluate whether a project can be reasonably expected to begin construction in a timely manner, consistent with all applicable local, state, and federal requirements. The applicant should indicate, one, the anticipated NEPA class of action for the project, and the environmental analysis that's in progress or completed. Be aware that the final determination of the NEPA class of action will be determined by MARAD when we reviewed the application. And the application should also include a discussion on the status of any required environmental approvals or permits, in addition to the status of the NEPA process. And then the NOFO has additional, a full discussion on the NEPA processing and permitting risk. Next slide. So these are the ratings for NEPA process and permitting risk. Also, the one you want here is low risk. If you can get there, it's the most desirable. A low risk rating means that the application clearly documents the anticipated NEPA level of review for the project, describes the environmental analysis in progress or completed, and demonstrates that the project is expected to begin construction or be in service in a timely manner consistent with the applicable requirements. Moderate and high risk follow accordingly depending on what the applicant provides in response, as it's shown on the rating table. Next slide. So this is innovative technology. MARAD intends to use the Marine Highway Program to support innovative projects that take advantage of many of the developments in science that have transformed the way we address practical challenges of infrastructure development related to maritime operations. These innovations may include technology to enhance the safety or operational efficiency, innovative methods in design, construction, or maintenance, and integration of solutions that strengthen port resilience. So yeah, and so next slide. There we go. Here's the rating table. To receive a high rating in innovative technology, an applicant or project involves the use of one or more innovative technologies that directly address maritime infrastructure challenges or maritime operations. The innovative technology should result in significant measurable improvements to marine highway transportation. So you're going to need to try to do some sort of quantification of the benefits there. Medium and low ratings would follow accordingly, depending on what the applicant provides in response to the rating table. So I think we have medium there as likely result in improvements, and low looks like it's unlikely to produce. And then I guess the big thing here is you don't want non-responsive on anything, so be sure to at least address innovative technology. And with that, I'm done, and I'll hand it back to Tim.
Well, thank you, Wade, and thanks, Fred and Chris, for getting through the meat of that. So what happens after you submit your application? There are 3 phases of application review. The intake review screens applications for basic eligibility and completeness. The items we discussed, if you're missing those, we may go back to you and ask for them. But if you leave out something that's critical, it could result in not advancing to the next phase, which is the technical review phase. And that's where the team will review, will evaluate how your project meets the merit criteria and selection considerations, and go through they'll be on the rating tables that were mentioned above. And then the senior review team, they develop a list of projects for consideration by the secretary for award. The Maritime Administration uses that list of recommended projects and uses that list to develop a list that we recommend up to the secretary, I should say. And of course, the Secretary of Transportation makes the final selections for the awarded projects. Next slide. Okay, so marine highway grants are reimbursable. You will be reimbursed after your grant agreement has been executed. Allowable expenses have been incurred, and a valid request for reimbursement has been submitted to MARAD. Grants are subject to various requirements that include the Uniform Administrative Requirements, Cost Principles, and Audit Requirements for Federal Award, also known as 2 CFR 200, as well as the Build America, Buy America Act, the BABA, that we mentioned earlier, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, and others. For insight into these requirements, please see the prior year terms and conditions posted on the MARAD website. We'll drop the link into the chat. Lead applicants intending to make subawards under their project should refer to 2 CFR 200 for details. Applicants should be aware that all contracts executed under the program that create procurement relationships must follow the 2 CFR 200 procurement standards, including requirements for competition. Next slide. Okay, so now you're ready to apply. The first step is to make sure that grants.gov is ready for you. To apply using grants.gov, you will need a valid unique entity identifier, formerly a DUNS number. You will need to create a grants.gov username and password, complete the authorized organization representative AOR registration in grants.gov, and you must register with the System for Award Management, SAM, under www.sam.gov. Some of these requirements may take a few weeks, so please start early. MARAD will accept the last application that we receive from you in grants.gov. This means that you are more than welcome to submit a test application if you want to test the system before you submit the final version of your application in grants.gov. Next slide. Okay, again, the application deadline is 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Monday, August 31st, 2026. No late submissions will be accepted. MARAD will accept only one application from each eligible applicant. So as we said in this prior slide, if you submit a test version, we'll look at the last one. Your application must include the SF-424, Application for Federal Assistance, the FY 2026 United States Marine Highway Program cover page with information about the project, and the project narrative. The project narrative may not exceed 20 pages in length excluding cover pages, tables of content, appendices, and letters of support. You can refer to the NOFO for a full description. Next slide. Okay, questions. So thank you for your time and attention. Questions related to the NOFO may be sent to by email to mh@dot.gov. And those responses will be posted to the U.S. Marine Highway Program Frequently Asked Questions. Any questions that we take today will also be added to the FAQ site. And you can check out the program website at the Maritime Administration. I guess we can't put there's a if you clicked on that blue thing, it'd be a link. But so with that, we'll take questions. Slide 4, next slide. Thank you. Okay, Scott Turner.
Yeah, thanks for putting on the presentation, and I have a question about the timing. You mentioned an obligation date of September 30th, 2029. Is that when you anticipate being able to spend the money?
Okay, Fred, you want to take that one?
Yes, sir. That obligation date of September 2029 is when the funds should be completely expended. That's when the grantee should have actually.
Yeah. But I think he's asking about the obligation date. That would be the one we have the grant agreement signed.
When do you anticipate awarding, and when do you anticipate being able to reimburse, I guess is my question. Do you have to wait until September 30th, 2029, or that's the end date for the program?
No. What will happen is if you're selected for award, then that's when my portion of this operation stops. So we turn this over to our grant management team to take it from post-selection. So what happens is you'll work with them to get through the NEPA process and to develop the scope, schedule, budget, and get your grant agreement signed. And so once that's signed and you get a notice to proceed, at that point you can start expending money.
Okay, when do you anticipate awarding, and when do you anticipate the earliest you would get notice to proceed? Like, give me a little bit of color on what you see the timing of the program.
Okay, based on the NOFO closing date of the end of August, I would anticipate we're looking at a mid-January award date. Okay, so at that point, it depends on the complexity of the project. If it's, everything has to go through NEPA, even equipment purchases. So if it's a CADX, if it's just if you're buying a forklift and that's it, those can happen relatively quickly. And I don't want to put the grants team on, I don't want to give, but I would say within, 3 to 4 months is probably a window for that. If you're breaking ground or going in water and it requires an EA or worse, then those can take years. So it really depends on the type of project.
Tim, can I just jump in there?
Oh, please.
An EA has a 1-year time limit now, so an EA would only take up to a year. Just a point of clarify.
Well, thank you for that. Okay.
Eric, do you have a question?
Hey, Tim. Hi. If your municipality is successful in the grant application, you mentioned the award. I'm assuming the grant agreement will be executed come January 2027.
The awards
Okay.
would be announced, and that's my target date. I mean, that could shift one way or the other, but that just means that you've been selected for award. You have to go through all the NEPA process and all those things in order to have the grant agreement signed.
Okay.
And that can take months up to, as Chris said, up to a year for an EA.
I got you. So the grant agreement may take a little longer.
Yeah,
Potentially.
if you get a phone call from the Maritime Administration saying congratulations, you got an award, do not start construction.
Yeah.
It's-
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Potentially. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, Eric. You have your hand up.
Yeah, quick question. Thanks for putting this on, by the way, very informative. The question that I have is, would it be possible to allocate, if awarded, a certain percentage of the grant towards customer subsidies? The reason why I ask that is, one of the big challenges to revitalizing the Marine Highway is the cost difference between using trucks instead of vessels on the Marine Highway. Is there a possibility to allocate a percentage of grant awards towards customers who would actually use the service?
No, that would require actually a statutory change of the program. We cannot provide subsidies.
You can provide such. Okay, I guess that answers my question. No.
Yeah, we have had.
All right.
I mean, there have been programs, projects under us that have used state funding to, kickstart the service, which is now operational and doesn't require that. But those sort of things. But it's not in the in our legislation.
Okay, fair enough. I got you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions? Libby.
Can you hear me
I
now?
can. Yes.
Okay, good. We're looking at a project that will primarily reduce landside congestion, but it is moving produce from a Central Valley with a reefer combination. So this is a power pack in train service to a port. And then the container will be taken off the power pack and put on a vessel for export or conversely import. Would a power pack to keep refrigerated produce in containers chilled be an eligible project?
On a barge?
It's moving by rail from, an extended distance to the port. So a container is moving from by rail to the port to go import and export, but they need the reefers for keeping the produce cool during the rail portion of the transit.
That would not be eligible. We are intended for domestic service. So obviously, like in the case of like the 64 Express, they ship stuff, obviously to the Port of Virginia, for export, but that we focus on the domestic portion of that, and it has to have a maritime component as far as water side. So we have actually, well, the reason I asked the question was we actually did buy generator packs for barges for the Virginia Port Authority to put on the for that service, so they could carry blueberries and other frozen foods. But I cannot see an instance where we would fund a rail project like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Scott.
If we had a project that required capital equipment, dockside equipment for a river terminal, does it have to be new equipment, or could it be used equipment?
It can be used equipment, but it's still the BABA requirements still apply.
So things that would be made in the United States would be allowed, but a piece of equipment that was made overseas and brought into the United States wouldn't qualify?
Most likely. Now the BABA, I guess, Stephen, you want to answer that one? You're more in tune with the BABA than I am. I know there's steel products, and there's different categories within that.
Right. Yeah, it would need to comply with the Build America, Buy America Act, even if it was used. So, at a very high level, what you're describing does not sound like it would be eligible. If it was manufactured overseas and just here, that's probably not going to be BABA compliant.
All right. What if it was manufactured in the U.S., but it was from a foreign-owned company, like Toyota manufactures forklifts. If they manufacture a forklift in the U.S.,
Right.
does that fit the BABA if it's made in the USA but made by a foreign company?
If it otherwise comply with the BABA standards, yeah, the BABA standards don't necessarily preclude a certain company. It is about the location of the manufacturer, and then it still needs to meet the component standard. So if it's a manufactured product, greater than 55% of the cost of those components need to be domestically produced, in addition to it being manufactured in the US. If it was an iron and steel product, then 100% of the iron and steel in that product would need to be domestically produced.
Okay. Are there waivers if things aren't made in the US that are specialized equipment that you need, but there's no US manufacturer?
There is a waiver process. It's quite extensive, and there's no guarantee that it will be granted. And then also relevant for this stage, if in your application you indicate that you won't be able to source it in compliance with BABA, then it probably will result in a higher risk rating and technical capacity. So it could negatively affect the competitiveness of your application.
Okay, so just to recap, you're saying any equipment has to be made in the USA to qualify under BABA, and anything else that you ask for that's an exotic waiver is going to hurt my application.
I'm saying that anything that BABA generally applies to this program. And so equipment that you purchase needs to comply with the applicable BABA standards, and that there is a waiver process, but it's extensive. And if you say in your application that you're seeking a waiver and you can't source it in compliance with BABA, that it could negatively affect the competitiveness of your application.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for the color.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, yeah, Tim. I have another one. With regards to the innovative technology, trying to wrap my head around that, do you have some examples what that could potentially entail, innovative technology? I'm just, with regards to my project, to be building a dock for barges to go across the waterway. I'm just trying to envision innovative technology in constructing a barge infrastructure.
That's a very good question. This is a new criteria for us as well. So I tell you what, I don't want to toss out some ideas on here. We'll get our heads together on that one, and we'll post that one in the FAQs. I think that one requires a little more thought.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? No. If not, thank you for your attendance. And oh, here we go. Somebody came in. Would autonomous, remotely operated, or smart vessel tech be considered under the innovative technology consideration if they directly tied to a designated marine highway route? I would say yes, absolutely. Our unlike the PIDP program, we do not have they have a requirement that you can't use automation. You can't lose a job essentially. It's okay to have a remotely operated crane as long as you have an operator on the other end of that remote connection. Our program, that's not in our statute. So in theory, yes, these would be allowable under our program.
Cool, thanks.
All right, any other? If not, or if you need to form a question, form a thought, you can, as we said earlier, submit it to mh@dot.gov, and we will answer those questions, and we'll post them to the FAQs, and we'll send you a note back to let you know the answer is there. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Hey.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.